Hello, everyone. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So, as you know, Wednesday is Wild Card Wednesday, and today's deck is most certainly wild. It is an example of what happens when you show up to a Legacy IQ with your Modern deck. This is Legacy Mono Green Devotion. Recently took Nicholas Borgmeyer to a top 8 finish at a SCG Legacy IQ. So, congrats to Nicholas on their finish with the deck. Of course, we don't know how many players were in the IQ, so keep that in mind. I have no idea. Maybe there were only 8 players. But this is Legacy Mono Green Devotion, a deck. I didn't know this was possible. It is very close to a Modern deck with a couple legacy cards thrown in, and it managed to make the top 8. So a quick reminder before we break down this madness: if you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Mono Green Devotion is built around Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, and normally this land doesn't really see play so much in Legacy. You have like Gaia's Cradle and stuff, which kind of does the same thing, but Nykthos can produce a ton of mana because you can pay 2 and tap it, and you add a mana equal to your devotion to a color. In this case, it's going to be green. So the idea is you use this to make a ton of mana by kind of flooding the board with green mana symbols, for example with Burning Tree Emissary. So you can play Burning Tree, Burning Tree, Burning Tree for free out of your hand. It has a bunch of green mana symbols. Your Nykthos is going to tap for like 6 mana or something. So that's one of the ways that can make a lot of mana really quickly. It also plays some more typical ramp cards. The Modern package of Arbor Elf plus Utopia Sprawl can make up to 4 mana on turn 2 because you can tap and untap the land that has Utopia Sprawl. Sylvan Caryatid, another way to add some mana. These are not cards that you typically see in Legacy, but you never know what'll work in a crazy format like Legacy. Of course, if you can make 4 mana on turn 2, that means you can play something like Garruk Wildspeaker, and then you can play something like Primeval Titan as early as turn 3, get even more lands, get to your big finishers. So this is essentially a ramp deck that's looking to use Nykthos combined with these ramp cards to play really big, expensive things really quickly. The deck has some card advantage thrown in. Elvish Visionary gives you a green mana symbol for Nykthos, also draws you a card to keep you cycling through your deck. Courser helps you make sure you're not drawing lands off the top of your deck, also 2 green mana symbols to help with Nykthos, but you get to play the lands off the top of your deck for free, which draws you into more action. And then the deck has this really crazy tutor package. Maybe my favorite part of the deck is you have Fierce Empath, which is 3 mana 1/1 that searches for a creature card with converted mana cost 6 or greater, which can search for your Woodland Bellower, which when it enters the battlefield lets you search for a non-legendary green creature with converted mana cost 2 or less, which happens to be Fierce Empath. So you can get a lot of value out of this. You can like Fierce Empath for your Woodland Bellower, cast your Woodland Bellower, hopefully have a ton of mana from Nykthos, get a Courser or an Elvish Mystic or whatever you want, or you can Woodland Bellower, get your Fierce Empath, which tutors up another Woodland Bellower, which tutors up a Courser or whatever. You can also cast your Genesis Hydra for a ton of mana, and you get to look at a bunch of cards, put something into play, and of course, one of the Legacy editions, which you don't have in Modern and is super powerful, Natural Order. So you can play 1 drop, make some mana, Natural Order, and just get something huge like a Primeval Titan, maybe on turn 2. Remember we talked about making 4 mana on turn 2? If you can just Utopia Sprawl, Arbor Elf, untap it, Natural Order on turn 2, you can have a turn 2 Primeval Titan or whatever huge thing you're hoping to get. Speaking of the rest of the deck, it is built around a lot of one-ofs potentially to take advantage of all those tutor cards. So you can use your Woodland Bellower, your Natural Order to get a Reclamation Sage to kill an artifact or enchantment, a Reverent Hunter to just get huge because its power and toughness is essentially equal to your Devotion to Green +1, and then Verdurous Gearhulk is a big finisher. You can take and just play all these cheap, efficient creatures, top it off with Verdurous Gearhulk on like turn 3, put a bunch of counters on something. And one thing about Legacy decks is they aren't necessarily built around beating just big creatures. They're playing these like Lightning Bolts and Abrupt Decays, and sometimes you just play an 8/8 Verdurous Gearhulk and decks just can't win. So in the final finisher, and this is mostly a tutor target as well, is Craterhoof Behemoth. So you play a bunch of stuff, you natural order, get Craterhoof Behemoth. Your whole team is huge and trampling. Craterhoof Behemoth has haste as well, so you just run over your opponent with this huge overrun effect off of your natural order. As far as the rest of the mana base, apart from the Nykthoses, we have Forest, Wooded Foothills to search up a single Stomping Grounds, and a Bojuka Bog to hate on the graveyard. In the sideboard, we get some more spicy creatures. Mistcutter Hydra gives the deck a way around Force of Will. Can you imagine how frustrating it has to be playing Legacy, have Force of Wills in your hand, being like, I got this covered. Your opponent has a bunch of mana thanks to Nykthos. They just tap all their mana and play like a 10-10 Mistcutter Hydra. How can you win? There's nothing you can do about it. Nylea's Disciple gains a bunch of life against aggro decks. Pelucranos and Dragonlord Atarka give the deck ways to deal with creatures, essentially removal. Dragonlord Atarka is why there's that single Stomping Grounds in the deck. You can search it up with your single Wooded Foothills, cast Dragonlord Atarka. And then you have an Emrakul the Aeon Storm, which you're planning on hardcasting off of Nykthos, another Woodland Bellower, another Verdurous Gearhulk, Pithing Needle for Planeswalkers, Crossing Grip for artifacts and enchantments, and a Zavala Stampede. This deck goes super deep. A Conspiracy 2 card I did not expect to see in Legacy. Basically, when you cast it, depending on how people vote, two different things can happen. First, you can reveal cards from the top of your library to hit a creature, put that card in your hand, or you can put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you will get to do one of those two, depending on what you choose, and then you will get to do one of those again, depending on what your opponent chooses. So you always get the good one, and you always get one that your opponent chooses. So it's kind of like a show and tell slash more random version of Tooth and Nail that costs less mana. Just a crazy option, but it's a way you can put something onto the battlefield on the cheap. And that is Legacy Mono Green Devotion, and that's been our Wildcard Wednesday Instant Deck Tech. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.